In Laboratory Reddit, today's story is...
My husband thought he could win back his ex while I looked after their daughter in hospital. But he hadn't reckoned on what her grandfather had planned for the family trust. I have no idea where to start. I suppose I could say that it all started when I thought that marrying my husband was the best decision I had ever made. I was wrong. Terribly wrong. I'm still trying to understand how everything got so completely out of control. Maybe writing this will help me process it. We have been married for 4 years. He had a daughter from his first marriage, Lexi, a charming and intelligent girl who had been through a lot for someone so young. Her parents had a complicated divorce, and her mother, my husband's ex-wife, was still very much present in their lives. At first, I didn't think much of it. They were raising their daughter together, and I assumed that was part of the situation. I had no problem taking on the role of stepmother. In fact, I was excited by the idea. But things were never as simple as they seemed. His ex-wife, whom I will call Mia, was much more involved in his life than I had realized. There were constant text messages, phone calls, and unannounced visits. My husband, whom I will call Rick, played down the importance of it all, saying it was only because of their daughter, and honestly, I believed him. Shared parenting requires constant communication, doesn't it? Besides, I didn't want to be the typical jealous second wife, so I let a lot of situations go. I should have noticed the cracks before. There were strange moments, like when he would always jump to Mia's defense no matter what. If I so much as mentioned feeling uncomfortable because she was overstepping some boundaries, he would make me feel like I was being irrational or insecure. Once, she showed up at our house late at night because her car had broken down, and he didn't even consult me to see if it was okay for her to stay. I felt bad about it, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be that kind of wife. Things came to a head at the beginning of this year. His daughter Lexi started showing symptoms of something serious. She was lethargic, losing weight, and complaining of pain. Rick and I took her to the doctor, and after numerous tests, we ended up in the hospital. Lexi was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that would require immediate treatment and a long hospital stay. It was devastating for all of us, but especially for her. I devoted myself completely to helping Lexi. I stayed by her side in the hospital, coordinated with the doctors, and kept a detailed record of her treatment plan. Rick was also present, at least during the first week. Then work emergencies began to arise. He would be absent for hours, sometimes whole days, while I stayed with Lexi. He claimed he was trying to keep everything in order at work so that we wouldn't have to worry about the finances. I believed him. One night, I needed to pick up a few things from home. He hadn't been back in days, and I thought I could take a shower and change my clothes. When I entered, the house was dark except for the light coming from our room. I wasn't prepared for what I saw when I opened the door. There they were, Rick and Mia, entwined on our bed. My own bed. I was paralyzed. For a moment, I couldn't even process what I was seeing. Then Rick noticed me, and the expression on his face will haunt me forever. He didn't even seem to feel guilty, just aware that he had been caught. Mia had the audacity to smile with satisfaction, as if she had won some kind of twisted competition. I turned and left without saying a word. I drove back to the hospital with my mind racing with questions. How long had this been going on? Was this the real reason for all his work emergencies? Was I just a temporary replacement while they sorted out their problems? The next morning, Rick showed up at the hospital as if nothing had happened. I couldn't even look at him. I kept my attention on Lexi, who didn't need to witness the tension between us. Later that night, he sent me a message saying we needed to talk. I told him I wasn't ready, but he insisted. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at the house. That's when he dropped the bombshell. He and Mia wanted me to leave, to abandon my own home. He said they were going to rebuild their family for Lexi's sake, and that it would be better if I wasn't in the picture. Here's the thing. The house wasn't exclusively his. When we bought it, I used some of the inheritance I got from my parents to make the down payment. My name was on the deed along with his. Legally, he couldn't just kick me out. I made that very clear. He didn't take it well. He started shouting, calling me selfish and vindictive. He said I was standing in the way of his happiness and ruining Lexi's chance of having a stable family, especially when she was in such a critical condition. I replied that was ironic, coming from someone who had just destroyed the stability of his own daughter by running off with her mother. After that, everything went completely out of control. Rick started bad-mouthing me to anyone who would listen, making up this wild narrative about me being a bitter and cruel stepmother who wanted to destroy his family. Honestly, it hurt to hear that, especially since I had done everything possible for his daughter, Lexi. She has always been like my own daughter, and I have never treated her as anything less. But Rick, being the charmer that he is, knew how to present himself as the victim. He painted this picture of himself as the loving father who was just trying to bring his family back together, while I was supposedly the villain who was standing in the way of his plans. It was like watching a soap opera, except it was my life and it wasn't entertaining at all. The truth is that not everyone believed her sob story. While many people in her family seemed to fall for her act, there was one person who did not: her grandfather, George. George has always been a pragmatic man. He is old school, the kind of person who believes in principles such as loyalty, integrity, and responsibility. He is not easily swayed by emotional manipulation and definitely does not tolerate dishonesty. I always had a lot of respect for him, but I never expected him to intervene the way he did. When George found out what Rick had done, cheating, lying, and trying to throw me out of the house, he was furious. When I say furious, I mean truly outraged. He didn't just silently disapprove, he took action. To my surprise, George actually called me personally. I admit that when I saw his name appear on my phone, I hesitated. I thought it was going to be another reprimand or someone else telling me to give up and let Rick and his ex-wife play happy families. But it was nothing like that. George told me he was disgusted by Rick's behavior. He said it went against everything he stood for and that he wouldn't tolerate it in his family. His exact words were something like, "A man who treats his wife and daughter like that doesn't deserve to be called part of this family." Honestly, I was speechless. I wasn't expecting anyone from Rick's family to take my side, least of all George, who was something of a patriarch of the whole clan, but he didn't stop there. This is where things took a turn. George controls a family trust, a considerable sum of money that Rick has been counting on for years. This trust was supposed to be his financial guarantee, enough to secure his future. George informed me that he had made the decision to exclude Rick from the trust completely. He said that Rick's actions had shown that he did not deserve the privileges that came with the family name. I was stunned. I didn't ask for this, and honestly, it hadn't even crossed my mind, but I can't say that I disagree with his decision. Actions have consequences, and Rick was finally facing his. Of course, when Rick found out, he completely lost control. He showed up at the house again, this time even more enraged than before. He was shouting, insulting me in every possible way, and accusing me of turning his family against him. According to Rick, I had manipulated George into excluding him, as if I had that kind of influence. I told him straight that he had managed to ruin his own life all by himself, without any help from me. He didn't take it well. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard I thought the hinges might break. That was the last time I saw him in person. Now I'm here, going over everything in my head, wondering what else I could have done to avoid this disaster. Should I have confronted Rick sooner? When I suspected something wasn't right, should I have been stricter about setting boundaries with Mia? Maybe I missed the signs, or maybe I chose to ignore them because I didn't want to believe that the person I married could be capable of all this. I keep thinking about Lexi too. She's caught in the middle of all this, and I hate that she might be the one who suffers the most. Did I fail her by not fighting harder to keep things stable? Or was this chaos inevitable? No matter what I did, it's hard not to question every decision I made along the way. Update 1. Hi everyone. I wish I could say things have improved, but they've only gotten worse. Honestly, I don't even know where to start because it seems like every aspect of my life is falling apart. After I refused to leave the house, Rick decided to tell his side of the story to anyone who would listen, including my family and his. And, as you would expect, his version conveniently casts him as the hero and me as the villain. The messages started coming in a couple of days ago. First, it was from his sister. telling me I should do the right thing and let Rick and Mia rebuild their family. Then her mother weighed in, saying I was being selfish and holding on to something that didn't belong to me. I even got a message from one of my own cousins, someone I haven't spoken to in years, telling me I needed to back off for the sake of the child. It didn't take me long to figure out what was going on. Rick is using Lexi as bait. From the messages, it's clear that he's making up some story about how I've been a terrible stepmother. Someone who doesn't care about Lexi's well-being and who stands in the way of her having a stable family. The audacity of it all is astounding. I have done nothing but love and care for that little girl since the day I met her. For him to turn around and use her as a weapon against me is extremely cruel. The worst part is that I can't even see Lexi. Every time I go to the hospital, there is always a relative of Rick or Mia to stop me. They're acting as if I were some kind of intruder. As if I had no right to be there. A few days ago, I tried to visit her after work. I brought her a little stuffed animal she'd been asking for, hoping to be able to spend a few minutes with her. But when I got to her room, Mia's brother was there. He told me straight out that I wasn't welcome and that I had to leave. I didn't want to cause a scene in front of Lexi, so I left, but I felt like my heart was being ripped out. I can't describe how much this hurts. Lexi isn't just my stepdaughter. She's my family. I've been there for her through everything. Her schoolwork, her bouts of flu, her spelling competitions. I'm the one who stayed up with her when she had nightmares and planned her birthday parties down to the last detail. I've never seen her as anything other than my own daughter. And now I feel like they're taking her away from me, cutting me out of her life as if I never mattered. Rick's grandfather, George, has been a vital support throughout all this. He's the only one in Rick's family who's on my side, and he's been trying to reassure me that things will be okay. But even he is dealing with their incessant attempts to distort the narrative. Rick and Mia have been calling him relentlessly, trying to convince him that I brainwashed or manipulated him into excluding Rick from the family trust. They are telling him that it is Rick's birthright, and that he has no authority to take it away from him. George is not giving in, however. He has made it clear to them that his behavior is unacceptable, and that he will not reward Rick's betrayal. I don't think they expected me to stand firm, and now they are desperately trying to make me feel guilty so that I change my mind. George told me about a call where Mia burst into tears, saying that I was ruining Lexi's life by driving a wedge between her parents. The audacity of that woman, I can't even comprehend it. In the midst of all this chaos, I realized something. I can't fix this. I can't reason with such selfish people, and I can't keep putting myself in situations where they treat me like the enemy. The only thing I know for sure right now is that I'm going to divorce Rick. I've started looking for a lawyer and gathering all the paperwork I'll need. It's overwhelming. But I know it's the only way forward. As for the house, there's no way I'm leaving it. It's as much mine as it is his, even more so considering I put up most of the money to buy it. Rick and Mia can play house somewhere else, but it won't be here. I've made that very clear to both of them. That said, I'm still lost. I don't know what the future holds, and that terrifies me. I don't know if I'll ever see Lexi again, or if she'll grow up believing the lies they're telling her about me. I don't know how to move on after such a deep betrayal, or how to trust anyone again. Right now, all I can do is move forward one step at a time and hope that I somehow find my way through this mess. Update 2. Hi guys, some things have happened and let me explain. If I thought things couldn't get any more complicated after the last update, I was completely wrong. It's as if every time I think I've hit rock bottom in this nightmare, I discover there's another level deeper to fall to. A couple of days ago, I ran into Rick's sister at the supermarket. Let's call her Sarah. Before all this, Sarah and I were close, or at least I thought we were. She was one of the first people in Rick's family who really made me feel welcome when we got married. We had long conversations about everything from work stress to family problems, and she even called me her extra sister at one point. But since the disaster with Rick and Mia, she has been completely silent. Not a call, message, or any contact at all. When I saw her, my heart sank. Part of me just wanted to turn around and leave. But I couldn't. I needed to at least try. So I approached her, and before she could avoid me, I begged her to talk to me just for a second. She sighed and said something like, "I really don't think this is a good idea." But she didn't leave. That felt like a small victory. I could see that she was upset. Her body language made it clear. Arms crossed, avoiding eye contact, her whole posture. I didn't waste any time and tried to explain my side of the story. I told her how I had been there for Lexi, how I stayed at that hospital day and night while Rick was out doing God knows what with Mia. I told her how confused I was by everything, how much it hurt to be portrayed as an evil stepmother when all I did was love that little girl as if she were my own. But honestly, I don't think I convinced her. The way things are going, I don't think I'm going to convince anyone. Rick and Mia have spent so much time creating this image of a perfect family that it's easy for people to believe it, and I get it. If you look at it from the outside, it's a simple story. They were the original couple, and I'm the intruder who came in and disrupted everything. That's how they're presenting it, and it's working. People are angry with me because it's easier to believe that narrative than to dig deeper and question what's really going on. And then Sarah dropped a bombshell that left me completely stunned. Apparently Rick has been saying that I manipulated him into leaving Mia even before we were married. He's weaving this whole narrative that I trapped him, that I took advantage of his supposed vulnerability and somehow convinced him to abandon his first family. According to him, I'm this manipulative teacher who destroyed his marriage. And now, years later, he suddenly realized the truth. And since he's such a noble guy, he wants to set things right by going back to Mia. For Lexi's sake, of course. When Sarah told me this, I was honestly too shocked to speak. I mean, the sheer nerve is mind-blowing. Let's get one thing straight. When I met Rick, he and Mia had already been divorced for over a year. Their relationship had ended a long time ago, and Rick wasn't exactly secretive about sharing the reasons why. He used to talk constantly about how toxic their marriage was. He would tell me stories about how Mia cheated on him and constantly lied about money. And now he's changing the story and acting like I'm some evil seductress who came along and drove him away. It's so absurd, it's almost laughable, except there's nothing funny about it because people are actually buying it. Apparently, Rick and Mia are also telling people that I'm trying to force him to stay with me by holding the house hostage. They're saying that I'm using the fact that my name is on the title deed as some kind of leverage to keep him trapped in a marriage he doesn't want. It's like they're rewriting history in real time and people are just buying it. And to top it all off, Rick and Mia have also been involving George in this mess. They're telling everyone that I've been manipulating him into excluding Rick from the family trust. They claim that I've poisoned George against his own grandson, all because I'm supposedly bitter and seeking revenge. Never mind the fact that George is one of the most independent and sharp-minded people I have ever met. He doesn't need anyone whispering in his ear, least of all me. He made his decision about the trust because of Rick's behavior. Pure and simple. But no, in Rick and Mia's version of events, I'm some kind of evil puppet master pulling all the strings. Hearing all this from Sarah was like a punch in the stomach. I couldn't even respond for a moment because I was so shocked by how far Rick and Mia were willing to go to paint me as the villain. I asked Sarah if she really believed all that. She didn't answer me directly, but she said something like, "It's hard to know what to believe right now." That hurt almost as much as the lies themselves. I thought she knew me better than that. After that conversation, I've been in a kind of spiral. I keep going over everything in my head, wondering how we got to this point. I've always tried to do the right thing, to be a good person, to love the people in my life unconditionally. But now it seems like none of that matters. All it takes is one person with a voice loud enough to turn everyone against you again. I have spoken to George about all of this, and he continues to support me, thank God. He told me not to let them get to me, that their lies will catch up with them eventually. But even he sounds tired. I know that Rick and Mia's constant calls and pleas are wearing him down. He is standing firm on his decision about the trust, but I can tell that this whole situation is affecting him too. As for me, I'm trying to focus on what I can control. I've had my first meeting with a lawyer to start the divorce process. It was overwhelming. There is so much to consider, and I feel like I'm constantly on the verge of collapse. But I know it's the only way forward. Rick made his decisions, and now I have to make mine. One thing I am absolutely firm about is the house. I am not going to give it up, no matter what. It's not just about the money or the property itself. It's about standing firm and not letting them take everything away from me. They've already taken so much from me. My marriage, my relationship with Lexi, my reputation. I won't let them take this away from me too. But even with all that determination, I'm still lost. I don't know how to rebuild from here. I don't know how to find closure when it seems that this chapter of my life has ended in the most messy and painful way possible. And I don't know how to move on when there is still so much anger, sadness, and betrayal weighing on me. Update 3. Hi guys, sorry for disappearing. It's been a whirlwind, and believe me when I say that a lot has happened. I'm not exaggerating. Between the emotional roller coaster and dealing with the consequences of it all, I barely had time to breathe, let alone update you all. But I'm here now, and I have some important news to share. The first surprise came out of the blue. A text message from Rick's sister, Sarah. Yes, the same Sarah who practically ignored me and didn't seem to believe my side of things. She sent me a message saying she wanted to talk and that she had something important to share. At first I was skeptical, thinking it might be just another confrontation or some kind of trick, but her tone seemed genuine. She told me that she had gone to visit Lexi, my stepdaughter, in hospital. And during their time together, Lexi had opened up about how much she missed me. According to Sarah, Lexi burst into tears and kept saying how unfair it was that I was no longer around. Lexi told her that I had always been there for her and she hated that I wasn't there now when she needed me most. Hearing that broke me. I started crying right there because it felt like a validation of everything I had been feeling. All this time, I had been portrayed as this villain, but for Lexi, I was still her mom, the one who cared about her when no one else did. Sarah told me that that moment made her realize how much damage Rick and Mia's actions had caused, not only to me, but also to Lexi. She apologized for not believing me before and said she wanted to make it up to me. She even arranged for me to visit Lexi in the hospital the next day. Seeing Lexi again after so long was like a weight having been lifted. She lit up when she saw me. We both cried as we hugged each other. She told me she missed me so much and hated how everyone was stopping her from seeing me. It was such an emotional moment, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever happens with Rick and Mia, I know I won't give up on Lexi. She's my daughter in every way that matters, and no one can take that away from us. But the real turning point came a few days later, when George, Rick's grandfather, decided it was time for a final confrontation. He organized a meeting at his house and invited everyone involved, Rick, Mia, their parents, Sarah, and, surprise, even me. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I trusted George enough to show up. When I walked in, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The moment Rick and Mia saw me, they went into full-blown crisis mode. They started shouting about how I had no right to be there, and Mia even hurled insults at me that I'm not even going to repeat here. But George wasn't going to tolerate it. He silenced them immediately and made it clear that there would be no drama in his house. He said that this meeting was to clear things up once and for all and that everyone would listen or they could leave. That silenced Rick and Mia, at least for a moment. Then came the big announcement. George declared that the trust, which had originally named Rick as beneficiary, would now be reserved entirely for Lexi. The room went silent for a second before Rick spoke, asking if that meant he would be the trustee. I think he was trying to hide his disappointment, still hoping he could control the money in some way. But George dropped another bombshell. The trustee would not be Rick. It would be Sarah. I could practically see the blood draining from Rick's face. He started yelling at Sarah, accusing her of plotting against him and claiming that this was all part of some scheme that she and I had planned together. Sarah, to her credit, didn't take the bait. She calmly told him that this wasn't about him. It was about Lexi and making sure her future was secure. George backed her up by saying that Rick's behavior had shown that he wasn't responsible enough to manage the trust, and that this was the best decision for Lexi's well-being. The drama didn't stop there. I took the opportunity to address Rick directly, telling him that no matter what problems we had, he had no right to keep me away from Lexi. I made it clear that I would fight tooth and nail if he ever tried to take me out of her life again. He didn't say much in response, probably because George was sitting right there, watching him like a hawk. Rick may not agree with his grandfather's decisions, but he's smart enough to know that George is a man of influence. Even if Rick no longer receives money from him, he still needs George's connections and support to some extent. As for the divorce, things are finally moving forward. My lawyer has been incredible, guiding me through the process and helping me stay focused on what matters. One of the biggest points of contention was, of course, the house. Initially, I was determined to keep it, but after some long conversations with my lawyer, I realized it might not be worth the trouble. My lawyer suggested that we sell the house and divide the proceeds, which obviously seemed the simplest way to end this chapter. When my lawyer presented the proposal to Rick, I was bracing myself for another fight, but to my surprise, he agreed without much resistance. So I guess this is where we are now. The house will be sold, the divorce finalized soon, and Lexi's future is secure thanks to George and Sarah. It's not the ending I imagined when I married Rick, but it's a resolution I can live with. There's still a lot of healing to do, and I know it will take time to rebuild my life, but for the first time in weeks, I feel like I can finally see a way forward. To everyone who has been offering support, thank you. Your words of encouragement have meant more to me than I can express. I will continue to fight for what is right, for myself and for Lexi. Whatever happens next, I think I'll be okay.